What? Yeah, so after this, it's still.
Insurance.
I know, sorry. No, it's still after we pass it, it has to go.
We have an extended jurisdiction member, don't we? We have 9. We have 9. So we need 5. Any question about quorum?
No, we have, there's more, they're coming, they're supposed to be coming. I was gonna say, I got a yes out of everybody except for my husband. Here's normal.
No.
No.
We definitely need to hear.
Yeah, so we got what, 1, 2, 3, there's 5.
You run in. They got to get through you to get to me. So your coach duties to settle down a little bit? Yeah, just breathing room, but
It's not mine.
over winter,
I'll take it.
wrestling. We stay busy with work in the winter.
I'll get it. 6:29. Here comes Russ.
So you're the last. I'll give you one of these. You take one, sit around.
Again, I
Put one there for us or something, or wherever he's gonna sit.
me. Well, I won't fight, but I can't guarantee you about this guy. He was up about dying. I'll fight money.
Oh my God, this year, probably the worst. The extension of my days is we wouldn't have this to do. Yeah, I don't think we have anything to do with that. Just gonna talk about it, yes. No, I'm not sure. I don't know anything to talk about it. Okay. 6:30, we're gonna call a planning and zoning meeting to order this 8th day of October 2015. Our roll call, show President Walter Abbott, Hey Jasper, whatever. Russ Harrison, Norman Stockton, our attorney, Lee Rollins, Inspector Jim Wires, and myself, Jeff Dillon. Does everybody have a chance to review last month's meeting minutes? Any motion to approve or, motion on the floor to approve minutes? Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Ready, can you say aye? Aye, approved. Okay, tonight we're here for no business issue, which is a public meeting on the rezoning of 420 West Washington Street, Morgantown, Indiana. Yeah. I sent around a stack of resolutions. I didn't get one of them. Somehow. There's just one there. There's some extras, okay. You'll recall, we met last month. Oh, we're making the double copy. I got that. I got my email. We talked primarily about property at 420 West Washington Street. The issue had come up prior to the meeting about whether that property could be used for used car sales. And we know that it has kind of a long history history of having been used for used car sales, but when we looked at the town zone map, we discovered that the property zone R5 is a residential designation, which would not permit it to be used for any commercial use, including used car sales. So as we looked at the ordinance, we discovered that auto sales is not included as a listed use under the zoning ordinance at all. And the way the ordinance reads and the way state statute operates is if a use is not expressly permitted in the ordinance, then it's deemed to be a prohibited use. Uses are permitted because of their inclusion. And so, with regard, again, back to that same property, not only was the property not zoned for used car sales, but used car sales was never included as a permitted use in the zoning ordinance. So we talked last month about how we might want to resolve that, and I think the consensus of the Planning Commission was, well, let's amend the zoning ordinance to include used car sales and automobile sales generally as a use. I think, again, I'm not necessarily trying to speak for everybody, but my sense was, again, consensus, if not a unanimous view, was, well, that surely must have been an oversight. That the drafters of the zoning ordinance didn't intend to exclude automobile sales as a use that's not permitted in Morgantown. It just somehow in the drafting of the document didn't get listed. So we need to add that so that car sales is something that can be done in Morgantown as long as it's done on property that's owned properly for it. And then we needed to identify the different zoning districts under which car sales would be permitted. And that, I think, consistent with the conversation was, in those zoning classifications that under current ordinance currently allow for auto repair and auto service. The thought being that, well, if other auto-related activities such as those are permitted in those zoning classifications, and that seems like the proper classification for auto sales. I left last month with one task being to prepare an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance to make the changes I just mentioned. The other issue then is, well, once the ordinance is amended to allow automobile sales and designate it what zoning classification they fall, the actual property that we're talking about, the 420 West Washington Street, will need to be zoned to one of those zoning classifications that allows automobile sales. And that's a little different process. We kind of get at this two ways. One is the zoning ordinance is the document, it's the text of the zoning ordinance where different uses are listed, development standards are included, the description of the zoning classifications are included, requiring the issuance of permits before work can be done, sort of the rules for land use and development of town. And then the zoning classification of each separate property around town is reflected on the zone map. So the Planning Commission kind of oversees two things, the rule book, the document, and the map, where property is zoned to a specific zoning classification. And so in order to change the zoning classification of this property or any other property, what we're actually amending in that case is the map, not the zoning ordinance. So the other task we had was to prepare an ordinance that also would amend the zone map to reclassify the 420 West Washington Street property from R5 to what, to C2, which is a general business district zoning classification, and one under the zoning ordinance, if it's amended like we talked, would permit used car sales. Okay, so that gets us kind of up to speed. Is all that making sense when we talk about the last meeting of the night? Okay. So, what I have passed out to you is a proposed ordinance consider these types of issues and make recommendations to the town council. And the recommendation carries weight. That recommendation is communicated to the council in the form of a resolution where you as a committee would recommend that a proposed change either be adopted or a proposed change not be adopted. Or you can send a proposal like this to the council with no recommendation at all. What I contemplate is, based on, again, the conversation last meeting, is that you will review this ordinance tonight, and if the way I've drafted it is consistent with what you wanted, that you would vote to approve it and to send to the town council a recommendation that the council adopted. The council adopted it then actually does change the zoning ordinance and its own map. That's our local law. And the council adopts that local law and changes it following the recommendation of the Planning Commission. Okay? So, I want to go over that ordinance. We can do it real fast in just a minute. Then I've also handed you the resolution that if you decide to send a favorable recommendation to the town council, will be the resolution that you would adopt tonight and have, I guess, Mark's the president, isn't he? Yes. That we'd have Mark sign it and we forward it on to the council. But a little bit of housekeeping first. We do have to send, we publish notice in the newspaper of this proposed change. We have certain requirements under sort of the community's right to know, to notify the community as a whole that the town is considering changes to the zoning ordinance. So I published in the recorder, notice of this public hearing tonight and a description of what was being considered. I also mailed to property owners surrounding 420 West Washington, to a depth of 2 property owners or 300 feet, whichever was greater, a notice of this proposed change and a notice of this public hearing. The Planning Commission is supposed to adopt a rule that identifies who interested parties are and the manner by which they are supposed to receive notice. And because this Planning Commission does not have occasion to conduct public hearings and amend the zoning ordinance and zoning map change very often, I think this is the second time since I've been around that we've actually had a formal review and adoption process. I need to ask you tonight to adopt as a rule who are interested persons and the form of notice that they should receive. And my suggestion would be that interested persons, those parties, what we're talking about are the people who are most directly affected by a change. So someone who lives on the other end of town, not near this property, this is the case everywhere in the state. You know, there will be, with larger cities and planning commissions that operate more regularly, are considering cases at their meetings every month or twice a month or whatever, have a set of rules and procedures that are followed. And it's very clearly spelled out. Indianapolis is 660 feet into properties. Johnson County, the jurisdictions there tend to be more like 250 or 300 feet and 2 property owners, something like that. But you're looking at an area around the property that is being changed because those people are most closely affected, and they're the ones that have the greatest right to know because, you know, it affects their property value. It's something they're going to look at or hear or see or whatever. So I sent to that area 300 feet around 2 property owners, all the property owners in every direction around this property, notice of the change in the meeting. I would ask tonight that by motion, this Planning Commission adopt, or this Planning Commission by motion identify as interested parties for purposes of notice of amendments to the zoning ordinance. Property owners whose property is within 300 feet or 2 properties of the subject property, okay, whichever is greater, and that those persons are to receive notice by first-class mail at least 10 days prior to the public hearing. And if that's okay with everyone, I just need someone to say, I make that just read, okay. Yeah, okay. Okay, we have a motion on the floor and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, thank you. And then if you'll look at the ordinance that I passed out, this 2015-12, we'll do this pretty quickly on the second page. The section 1, the italicized definitions. This language that you're seeing here is language that will be added to the ordinance and that is not in the ordinance now. So we're defining automobiles. If we're going to define sales of automobiles, we need to define what an automobile is. And you'll see it's a passenger car, pickup truck, recreational vehicle, travel trailer, motorcycle, mopeds, and boats. New automobile sales is a franchised retail dealership that is primarily housed in a building. There's a mixture, however, the principal use probably should be the marketing display of automobiles, whether sale or lease or other commercial financial means. Secondary supporting uses can include an inventory on-site or nearby of new or used automobiles in and here's the part. And we're talking about new cars. Here's the language that you'll find in both definitions. In operating condition, and on-site facilities for the repair and service of automobiles previously sold, rented, or leased by the dealership to find their automobile repair shop. No abandoned vehicles. What we're trying to do here is allow for cars to be sold, but not for that use to somehow morph into a salvage lot or a tow yard or something like that, and the use get too far afield from what we have in mind, because that's something different. And then the next one we would add would be used, which means the retail business that sells operable, used automobiles. Secondary supporting uses may include the service of automobiles previously sold or traded to find an automobile repair shop. No automobile salvage or scrap activity shall be permitted. And no abandoned vehicles shall be stored. And so there again, we really are making it about sales. Now, we already have in the definition, already have the ordinance definitions for auto service and repair. So some of these activities in this definition wouldn't include are activities that are permitted under different definitions in the same zone. But I wanted to make this definition kind of targeted to the use we're talking about. Okay. So then the next section under 1B, automobile sales new and automobile sales used, would be included as conditional uses. Now, conditional uses mean that under that zoning, they're permitted, but you still have to come to the BZA and have them sort of approve your plan. It's still subject to a kind of a scrutiny, a review, although ultimately it's permitted use. That's the same way that automobile repair and service centers are now. Those are uses that are conditional that require that additional review. So under rural plan development, mixed-use development, neighborhood service district C1, and industrial parks, we're making these uses subject to the exact same standards and review as other sorts of automobile-related uses. But under 1C, what I've done here is under C2, I've allowed this as a permitted use that doesn't require any additional review. If it's the property zone C2, automobile sales is a permitted use, and there's no additional review that is required before that. You can start using the property that way. All right. So those changes would be made to the zoning ordinance. This language would be added to it, just as this has been presented. All right. That's the text of the ordinance itself. Now the next section 2 refers to the map. And we're talking specifically about the property at 420 West Washington Street. It is zoned now high-density residential R5. And this ordinance is rezoning it to general business district C2. If that's adopted, then that property can be used for used car sales without any further review or any additional formal process on the part of the town planning commission. So that's the ordinance that will go to the town council for the town council ultimately to act on. It doesn't have to adopt it. But if it's in a form that you all are satisfied with, then it would go just like I presented it to you on to the council for it to questions on any of that?
I do have one question, and this is something we run into. Recreational vehicles under state definition, ATVs, or recreational vehicle RV, what? I just want to make sure, because we're dealing with that with the town board, what a recreation, all-terrain vehicles also, four-wheelers, in other words, and that, does that fall under recreational vehicle? Motor coaches and all that, I'm just seeing that's what we're going to run into.
Good question. I think that if we want to make sure, if we want to include all-terrain vehicles.
I don't know.
No, but this is just down the road on this.
If we want to include those as vehicles that could be sold, or would fall under the definition of automobile, we probably ought to mention them specifically.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Because, not necessarily falls in, situations, but it's going to come up.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, second question. Existing properties, not just contiguous to the one we're talking about, but all up and down Main Street. At some point in time, we're going to have to see that the map is corrected to suit you, is that right?
Well, not necessarily.
Well, my question is, we have a used to be auto dealership that is now a car service place, Withers. Does this create a situation for them?
I don't think this does, no. Because we already have a definition of automobile repair. We have automobile repair shop and automobile service station. And on page 6 of our current zoning ordinance, it tells us what those things are.
But if they're doing a lot of work and you've got a wrecked car sitting there for 6 months waiting to be repaired or whatever. That looks like that might not be one.
Well, it would, but because that's already in the ordinance. We have automobile repair shop means any premises used for the general repairs of motor vehicles, including such work as engine removal repair, clutch transmission, spray painting, body or fender repairs, recapping tires, and may include the sale of fuel and parts. And so that's a use that the ordinance already allows. Now, it needs to be under the right zoning classification. And if it isn't on that property, then that's an enforcement problem. But we're not really trying to include those uses in this amendment because we already have those in here. That's what's so strange about this, that we had an ordinance adopted in 1989 that included automobile repair shop and service station, but didn't mention anything about sales. It just was an oversight, and really what we're doing is just fixing what I'm sure was a mistake. Okay? Yeah. Now, whether there are other uses out there now on various properties that don't fall under the zoning classification, that may be true, and that's an enforcement issue. But I don't think there's anything we're doing tonight that creates any new problem for anybody else. Because we're not changing, we're not rezoning any other property. And we're not changing what any current uses or where or under what classification current uses are permitted. We're simply including in the ordinance automobile sales that somehow was excluded. Okay, so that makes sense?
Yeah, I just soon not have to come back and redo things again.
That should happen.
After the map and so forth.
Right.
We need to get that all cleared up.
Well, and I don't, I really don't know more on a broader scale. I don't know how automobile sales uses were permitted in the past under this ordinance when it wasn't listed. And I think what we've bumped into here again is some things were done that weren't done correctly, and this wasn't discovered before. And so we may have had a bunch of non-conforming uses that nobody knew about or cared about. And I don't have any sense here that anybody wants to keep this from happening. And in fact, I say this to you, that you just take it on faith, I suppose. It's extraordinary, in my experience, for a town to go to such effort to move so quick to accommodate a business person. But I mean, we're doing this fast, we can make it happen. And we are, not because anyone's trying to really do you a favor, but we are because we can't believe it wasn't included in the first place. And so, because it does cause you a problem, you know, that everybody's moved as fast as they can to try to correct it, so the town kind of gets out of the way. But I don't know why that property was used as a car lot, and how that happened, and how the powers that be in the town ultimately thought that was all right in the past. And like I said, we can go back and spend an awful lot of time trying to sort out how we made mistakes. I just spend that time and energy correcting them and being proactive to make things better. And so this is an effort along those lines. Any other questions on the substance of the ordinance? Everybody like it okay?
Now, whether or not we approve it or not, the town council itself will make it determination.
They have to adopt it for it to become law.
So we could say, well, we're just,
You could.
and it's their problem.
But it is. You can say,
That's not quite fair.
well, we're going to send it to you with a recommendation that you do not adopt it. You can send it to with a recommendation that you do adopt it, or you can send it with no recommendation at all. And I may be telling you more than you want to know, but here's what, the reason that you have the choices to give the different recommendations is in larger towns where there's a lot of zoning activity, most zoning cases are initiated by a property owner, right? So I want to buy a piece of property and I want to zone it from residential to commercial because I want to put business on it. So I file a petition with the Planning Commission for rezoning. And you consider my request. We could have done it here. Again, we could have said to you, you figure it out. And you could have filed a petition. And then when that individual comes to the Planning Commission may decide, you know what, we don't have an opinion. We're not going to give one. Or the Planning Commission may say, we think it's a bad idea. We're going to tell the council to disapprove it. And then you really are considering a request from a property owner about something they want to do. In this case, the town initiated this. I mean, we started the whole thing because we realized that this was surely a mistake. And so it really would be kind of awkward for the Planning Commission to start the whole thing and then say, yeah, but don't approve it, even though we're the ones that started in the first place, right? Okay. So, if you're good with the language of the text and are supportive of the 420 West Washington property being rezoned to C2. Now what I would need from you is, if we look at this resolution, 2051, it simply says, we initiated the amendments, or that the council and the Planning Commission can initiate it. The Planning Commission did initiate recent amendments, what we just talked about, to the zoning ordinance and to the zone map, that we consider the implications of all of that. Under section 1, the Plan Commission, you all, are submitting to the town council a favorable recommendation. In other words, you're saying, we think you ought to adopt it. And that we're instructing the secretary to send this resolution after sign on to the town council, so they'll receive it along with the ordinance and know that the Plan Commission has taken a good look at this and this is what it thinks we ought to do. So, if that's what a majority of you are inclined to do, we would need a motion to adopt resolution 2015-1 and forward it on to the town council.
Okay, do I have a motion to adopt
I'll make that motion, just the way he said it.
resolution 2015-1 for us? Walter seconded, all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
And just Joe, was there any public comment on any of this? It wasn't public hearing. You want it? Joe, I'm not trying to encourage you to talk, believe me, I'm not crazy. But no, I realize it's a public hearing, and we got Russian, we didn't give the public chance to speak.
I spoke right up. I spoke right up.
Okay, all right. So that's approved, and then we can close the public hearing. And that's everything on this. Thank you.
Okay, a motion to close public hearing. I second. All in favor?
this map, and then write on this map, and maybe blow it up or whatever, how the various properties on this map are actually currently being used. And maybe what we could do ourselves would be just to bring it in to sort of conformance with what's really happening out there on the earth, right here in our own town. Instead of, and if we think, well, this ought not be this way or whatever, we make an exception to it. But some of it is just aligning it with what has always been the use anyway. Right? We're not, I don't think anybody's wanting to reinvent Morgantown. We just want to get our rules lined up with our reality. So, and then the end up, what was did you have a question you wanted to talk about it?
Oh, I just wanted to make the board aware that NDOT requested the zoning for some parcels in the buffer zone, and they want to see a map, and we don't have a map. So, we might want to include that when we redo our map, just, we're around, just say this is our keeping.
Well, that's right. I mean, we can reach out beyond the boundaries to test that. Why they need it, I don't know. I said to Becky, look, we can't tip something that doesn't exist. We just can't.
Yeah, so just for future reference, if it comes up again.
Well, and there's still a little uncertainty, I suppose, about whether we're going to have that buffer zone. The Morgan County Commissioners adopted an ordinance to eliminate the buffer zone. They were then threatened with some litigation by Martinsville. And they probably took action they didn't have authority to take. But in any case, now they kind of backed off that, although I don't know whether they formally rescinded the ordinance. But it's a little confusing, a little uncertain right now.
How does that affect the rest of the night, sitting on this?
If the buffer zone went away, and that's what they intended to do, but they now say to us, and their county attorney says to us, no, they're leaving it intact for now. If we didn't have a buffer zone, we would have no representation for the buffer zone. I mean, it just wouldn't exist. So if it goes away, you go away.
Okay.
In the meantime, we're happy.
You probably have to go talk to somebody down there.
For sale.
Yeah.
Okay, any other business? Okay,
Have we done everything we need to?
yeah, I'm pretty sure we mainly work on policy, we don't have that accomplished. All right.
Well, Joe didn't agree with it, probably.
Good job. You've done good.
Okay.
I have one question.
By the book.
I'm only half.
The house on Morton Street, is it still working?
It's been slowed down a bit.
Oh, no kidding.
They're in the process of divorce. And so she's struggling trying to get help and doing things, but they've done good, but it's,
Well, let's go ahead and adjourn, and if you guys want to talk about it, you can.
wait a minute, that kind of, no, wait a minute, that kind of brings up a question. The last zoning meeting we had here, there was a fella here that lives over here in Herschel, old house. The big two-story one with the tarp on the roof right across from Meredith's. He was in here and he said that he had a plan for that building until 2017. Or no, 2027 was what he stated. That kind of hurts Linda. I mean, if we're going to give him 15 years or something.
Okay, we can talk. That's an unsafe premises issue. Our enforcement officers here, I can say this, they ain't gonna happen.
Okay. Okay.
But until
We've got to be fair.
I know there's conversation and some promises, and that's been a trouble property. Until an order's written and he wants it heard by the NSA Building Commission, there isn't anything for anybody else to do. But that's not right.
Okay.
Him having a plan in the town accepting it.
That's
I was going to say, that's what I thought, that he might have said something like that, but we didn't act.
no, you guys didn't have the action.
Yeah, so, like he did.
You really weren't dealing with him at all. He just showed up and